Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Thank you so much for tuning in for another show. Welcome to all of our members, subscribers, and viewers from all across the world. Tonight, I'm going to be talking to you about the latest developments in Gaza with resistance actions declared in Gaza, one massive ambush that took down dozens of IDF terrorists alongside other attacks that were carried out against Israel, primarily by Yemen, by Ansarullah. Alongside their attacks on more MQ9s, they took down 19 so far. We're going to talk about that. And of course, the escalating tensions now in Israel with the previous three of the previous heads of the Mossad joining the letter that the Air Force pilots published several days back. That's causing more and more problems for Benjamin Netanyahu now, spreading like wildfire in Israel. We're going to talk all about that. But we're going to begin with the Palestinian resistance. An occupation force falls into an ambush by the Qassam brigades in Rafah. A booby-trapped house explodes. Now, people have been talking in social media. Where is the resistance? What's happening? What are they doing? Oh no, look, Israel defeated them. Nothing is happening anymore. They're disarming. They're da. Hold on. Be patient. Several things people need to understand about the Palestinian resistance. Number one, the Palestinian resistance, just before the ceasefire took effect, they carried out their biggest attacks against Israel. Recorded, verified, published. Israel itself declared that during the third invasion of Jabalia, in what was labeled at the time as the general's plan, the genocidal general's plan, killing everything walking in Gaza, they confirmed that over 55 soldiers were killed, including a brigade leader, a brigade commander, during those 55 days. These were the last days before the ceasefire. That means there was a consecutive massacre going ahead from Israel against the Palestinian resistance, actually declaring that they are targeting the Palestinian resistance and trying to disarm them and dismantle them, like Benjamin Netanyahu said, eliminating the Hamas. Now, ever since Benjamin Netanyahu broke the ceasefire, we saw a slight shift. The Palestinian resistance, they carried out activities, not with the same intensity as before. However, we saw a shift. Why? Because their defensive mechanism is a very dynamic defensive mechanism inside of the Gaza Strip, and they are in no rush to either expose themselves in certain locations. As a matter of fact, in some instances previously, only a quarter of a brigade was fighting Israel in certain parts where they had invasions. And they are dragging Israel, luring the Israeli terrorists into certain parts so they can carry out operations such as this one. Booby-trapped, pre-rigged, ready for them to go in and feel comfortable. All of a sudden, that's it. Then they had more missile launches at Israel, and people need to understand that the missile launches on Israel is something very dangerous and more sophisticated to do with an area in Gaza with, Israel having surveillance and they're having eyes in most parts of the Gaza Strip. So their dynamic changes depending on the situation. And there is also a notion that this is a period primarily intended by Benjamin Netanyahu to apply pressure. Like the IDF confirmed, we're having no campaign directly against the resistance. We're having a campaign to apply pressure politically on Hamas. So that's why they're having these types of operations. Over a week ago, the Al-Qassam brigades had an ambush in Khan Yunis, again, pre-rigged ambush, went in, all of a sudden explosion. Doesn't require a lot of effort, no risk whatsoever from the Palestinian resistance. The armed wing of the PIJ, Sarai al-Quds, they exploded a whole tank in one of the areas that they were invading. And again, there are talks happening, both sides confirming that there are talks, there are developments, nothing confirmed yet. And this could be a period where the Palestinian resistance is viewing it as a period that will end relatively soon. Now, that's based potentially on a temporary judgment, because the judgment and the analysis of the Palestinian resistance, of the development on the ground, that's something that they constantly revise, that's the constant review, and they amend their actions against Israel based on that. But what this attack that was published today by Al-Qassam brigades is showing us is that, well, no, there is armed resistance against Israel. It's still going, despite all of the talk. There is a massive campaign online to try and kind of course, there was a campaign already from the beginning to, demonize the Palestinian resistance. But now there's a campaign to try and, portray the Palestinian resistance as if it's weakened or nothing. None of that has any substance whatsoever. And this latest attack is a proof of that. And usually, when the Palestinian resistance take down a building that has IDF terrorists in it, they wait for a prolonged period of monitoring. They will usually monitor for days to give the IDF terrorists false sense of security so they can come in bigger numbers. And when the Palestinian resistance feels that, a platoon is there, a dozen, whatever the number is, they know that that's the maximum amount that's there, and then they take action against them. Proving that, well, the Palestinian resistance is still there, they're still active. Israel is suffering huge losses despite massive shortages in their army, and we're going to get to those shortages in a minute. And also, well, even if they just want to apply pressure, and if they're not actually intending to dismantle the Palestinian resistance, they're still going to be facing surprises. Now, how does Israel respond? Israel responds against the civilians as usual. Now they've had another massacre in Al-Ma'madan hospital, the Baptist hospital. This hospital that witnessed one of the most barbaric massacres with so much complicity globally, so many people, journalists or presenters, politicians, leaders trying to justify it and blaming the Palestinian resistance at the time when Israel landed what was believed to be a JDAM bomb to inflict as much damage as possible. At the time, the hospital management, they carried out a press conference with bodies surrounding them. But it's as if those images were falling on deaf ears, at least from those who had the power to make any sort of change, whether it was Arab leaders or Muslim leaders or international leaders. Hardly anyone said anything at the time. People were following the Israeli propaganda. They were pushing the lies of Israel, saying that Israel carried out this attack, although, well, the official spokesperson of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he had to take down a post at the time after what he published was proven to be fake and taken out of context, taken from a previous video several years back, trying to prove that it was the Palestinian resistance and one missile fell and killed 600 people. It's like the Palestinians have no missiles that can kill 600 people anyway. What are you talking about? But they carried this out again. Still with complicity, unfortunately with complicity. Now, shameful leaders, but no, not everyone is shameful. Ansarullah in Yemen, they had several attacks on Israel. And now they're not only targeting the Ben Gurion airport, they're targeting also bases. They're expanding their attacks. And they also targeted a location in the Ashdod area. That was a base in that area alongside Ben Gurion Airport. So they had a declaration earlier on today that they carried out these operations similarly to previous reports in which they say that this is in solidarity with the Palestinian people, and we are continuing these attacks up until Israel finishes or ends the genocide in Gaza and also lifts the siege of the Gaza Strip. Now, the United States is attacking Yemen on behalf of the state of Israel. They're doing that with taxpayers' money. They're doing this not for any American interest. They're doing this purely for an Israeli interest. And they're killing innocent civilians in Yemen. As a matter of fact, they killed 18 people in the past 24 hours in Yemen following their recent attacks. The United States is claiming that they are targeting leaders in the Houthi movement or Ansarullah, and that, they're effective. Donald Trump is saying, yeah, we're going to keep hitting them, keep attacking. You're killing innocent civilians. And by the way, more and more videos and images are coming from Yemen about people who are unfazed really by these attacks. Unbelievable. The Yemeni people, they have a special strength. It's as if they're not fazed by any of that. Millions of people march every week in solidarity for Gaza to a level where the Palestinian resistance also, they published a video dedicating this for Yemen because of their position supporting Gaza, especially at a period where hardly anyone, who's supporting them from the Arab states really? But no, they published a video and Abu Ubaidah, the spokesperson of Al-Qassam Brigade, said that Yemen is paralyzing the heart of Israel in support of Palestine and Al-Aqsa, and they are our blood brothers. They are showing a very great resemblance to Gaza, and they are the ones standing up for Gaza now, the only front opened against Israel and the genocide cartel led by the United States of America. They are the only ones standing up, and they're paying a heavy price for it. That price is, innocent civilians are dying in Yemen every single day, being killed by these barbaric attacks of the United States. But listen, the United States is paying a price. Now, not only these attacks against the USS Harry S. Truman, Lord knows the damage because the United States will hide the damage. You can't hide the damage of the MQ-9s falling down, though. The 19th one, ladies and gentlemen, 19 MQ-9s. This is the 19th one that has been taken down by Ansarullah in Yemen. Each one of them, the build cost of them is 33 million. 33 million. Big number. Times, almost 20, 660, over $500 million, or 600 million US dollars. Who's paying for them? You're paying for them. If you're living in the United States, you're paying for that. It's out of your money. Taken from your pocket, in the military industrial complex pockets, and they go expand, they spend all of that money. What? And they can fall. One falls, two fall, and they keep sending them, and they fall, and they keep sending them, and they fall. It's like they're burning money. It's as if, money's nothing. Is no one having any financial difficulty in the United States? I wonder. Is everyone well off? Is everyone a millionaire in America? I mean, if everyone is a millionaire in the United States of America, okay, cool. And they're burning money. They're burning money. But Ansarullah in Yemen are very active. And I don't understand why the United States keeps sending them. This is something that's really bizarre. They keep sending the same MQ-9 that falls. They keep sending them, and they fall, and they take it down. But don't you have anything else? Or are you that stupid? What is it exactly? What are you trying to get out of the... Is it a good return on investment? Then it gets as if, money ain't a thing. It's as if money is not a problem for Trump. Okay. Moving on to that letter. I've been talking about this letter. You're probably bored of me with this letter. You keep talking this letter, this letter. What are you talking about, this letter? This letter that the Israeli pilots wrote, saying that Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel are conducting a war for political and selfish interests, and not a war based on the interests of the state of Israel. And they are waging a war where more Israeli soldiers are dying and more innocent people are dying. And it's putting Israel in a more, insecure situation. It's putting Israel in a very bad situation. Now it stopped only being the pilots. Well, it expanded to Unit 8200. I spoke about that yesterday. It expanded to soldiers on the ground who joined this. Now it's the previous heads of the Mossad. 3 of the previous heads of the Israeli Mossad, in addition to doctors now. Doctors are signing this letter. So there was this report in Israel saying Mossad alumni backs pilot's letter. 200 doctors also signed. And in the letter that former Mossad heads and 250 other former members of the 3 organizations said they need to exhaust every agreement that will bring an end to the suffering of the kidnapped, even at the cost of ceasing the fighting. The abandonment of the kidnapped irreversibly erodes the values of the sanctity of life. There is not a single word of refusal in those letters, according to reports. In the initial letter, even, there was no direct, explicit threat of refusal, by the way. But it shows you the state of panic Israel is in. The state of panic, well, by sacking them immediately. It's like these people haven't really said anything about refusal, just voicing an opinion. But it shows you the state where things are headed to. And in this report, they also continue. It's not just 8,200, the unit 8,200, doctors, captains, paratroopers, and gunners. Now, the Mossad, you're seeing how many people are participating. Dani Yotam, Ephraim Halevi, and Tamir Prado. These were the 3 previous heads of the Mossad that signed this letter. These are the people. And head of the Mossad, well, everyone knows the head of the Mossad, really. Who doesn't know the head of the Mossad and, the level of this organization in Israel? Again, not in any way to say that these people are somehow good or whatever. No, not at all. We all know them and who they are. But it's showing you, well, some of these people, they have been opposing the way Benjamin Netanyahu is conducting the war in Gaza, or the genocide, more accurately, in Gaza from the beginning. But now with these signatories, they are officially going out against the state. Saying, well, one of the previous heads of the Mossad, Tamir Pardo, famously said that Benjamin Netanyahu is leading the state of Israel into oblivion after the 7th of October. That was very, very shortly after the 7th of October, almost 1 month in. He said at the time, and I spoke about it at the time, by the way, Netanyahu is leading Israel to oblivion, he said. Previous figures in the Israeli army, well, he said, the man is going to kill the state if he continues down this path. Now, these people are not only participating in protests, imagine that, many protests they participated in to get a deal, any cost, get a deal, and the war. They're now signing a letter, outright letter. Now, despite the fact that there is no outright call for refusal, this is how it's being viewed by the establishment, by the government, to be more specific, in Israel. And that's why Netanyahu and his little poodle defense minister or genocide minister, Katz, are sacking these people. Now, this is causing more problems. What are the problems that this is causing now, by the way? This is causing problems with the people who are actively serving. How is it causing a problem? So they are saying now, some of those who are still serving in the terror army of Israel, oh, people who are not even fighting, so some of them, because some of them were, active, and some of them were not. But they're saying, well, hold on, they have a freedom of speech, and they can talk and they can criticize, and we can't, and we need to shut up and go and die. Why should we be in this position where we're going there, getting killed, and not having a word? Okay, well, that's going to create a bigger debate internally. So every day that goes by, this is the logic now, and this is something that's becoming more mainstream in Israel in the streets. And also many people are saying that, politicians too. And with every day that goes by, Benjamin Netanyahu is delaying this for his own interests, and we're paying with our lives for no defined strategy for the future, with no guarantees, and now with no active strategy against the Palestinian resistance. Like, there is no declared objective now. The previous campaign ended. We were a new campaign with a new name after the ceasefire ended. And that campaign doesn't have the declared objectives that they previously had for the war. The IDF said this is in a hope to apply pressure on Hamas to submit to a deal. They want to extract positions from Hamas. Okay, well, where is that leading to? Nowhere. That means the people are going there dying for no reason whatsoever, apart from Benjamin Netanyahu and his political interests. That notion that was there from the beginning, from the first day, from the day when Benjamin Netanyahu went and visited the Israeli army surrounding Gaza before they decided to have a ground invasion, and people were shouting and swearing at him. Then moving on to 2-3 weeks into the war, into the genocide in Gaza, 2,000 fleeing from Gaza and refusing orders. Later on, leading to outright rejection. And now to this moment where you have a letter that's constantly expanding and applying more pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu. From Netanyahu's perspective, it's as if nothing is going to change his mind. Look, he's worried. He is worried. Him and his wife and his closest allies, they worry about the protests, and they worry about, things that are happening, criticizing the government. But Netanyahu shows very psychopathic traits, like completely psychotic. This man showing kind of no regard whatsoever to what anyone is feeling around him, even if they are, hardcore, even if they are profound Zionists, for example. It's as if none of them exist. So he's calling these people who are signing this letter a bunch of pensioners, irrelevant people, a bunch of extremists, traitors who want to ruin the state. Everyone is a traitor if he doesn't have his vision. Next level psychopathy, next level lunacy. Now, with the ceasefire, and we've been talking about this prospect of a ceasefire, and potential deal being cooked, potentially something happening in the next few days. Is something happen? Is nothing going to happen? Okay. There are more reports. I mean, one of them was published in the New York Times about hinting about frustration coming from the United States administration, particularly from Ron Dermer. Ron Dermer, who's leading the negotiating delegation. Benjamin Netanyahu appointed Ron Dermer to lead the negotiating delegation at the expense of, or to replace, the heads of the Mossad, Shin Bet, and the representative of the army, alongside the senior figures in the Israeli delegation. So the people who are under him are the technical team, people in charge of some of the details, but he is leading the delegation. Now, this man's job is to constantly delay. Nothing else. In Israel, the families of the prisoners of war are saying he is having progress, and his progress is delay. That's his only progress. He's sitting there implementing what Benjamin Netanyahu wants. And the problem with that recipe is, well, with every prospect of a ceasefire, and again, that depends to a very high level on the United States' position with Israel, the way Trump and Witkoff will talk to Netanyahu, will they give him an ultimatum? Have they already given him an ultimatum? Are they going to implement or enforce that ultimatum? Despite all of that, or even if we combine that with the fact that you have someone like Ron Dermer there, well, if they don't go ahead and enforce everything, you have a person who's only intending to delay. If they do enforce something, he might become irrelevant at one point. He might. But judging by what happened before, and the fact that reports confirmed that Witkoff and Trump forced Netanyahu into a ceasefire agreement, well, at the time, the delegation was led by, well, the head of the Mossad, the head of the Shin Bet, and the representative of the Israeli army. We're seeing what's happening with the head of the Shin Bet, sacked. Supreme Court is refusing to allow Netanyahu to sack him. As a matter of fact, they also told Benjamin Netanyahu, you're not allowed to come with any alternatives too. So not only you can't sack Bar, you can't bring anyone else. And the government has approximately 3 weeks to try and solve this with the Supreme Court. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. Clearly, when the head of the Shin Bet, Ronen Bar, said that legally he can't take me out of my job, he knew what he was talking about. He said, I'm here in my position based on legal stuff. Netanyahu can't take me out of my position. And judging by what the Supreme Court did, the man has a point. Netanyahu can go and complain, maybe. You know, his solicitors, his legal team can try and do something. It isn't going to happen. It isn't going to happen in the Supreme Court. That is unless Netanyahu completely overwrites them and takes them down. And this is where things are headed. This is where things are headed. Things are headed towards complete disaster within Israel. This letter is gaining momentum. Troops on the ground, pilots, reports that some in the Navy are supporting it too, gunners, paratroopers, 8,200. Now the Israeli Mossad, more people from the society, doctors supporting it. They started to feel the level of loss inside of the Gaza Strip with the recent blows that they're getting from the Palestinian resistance, again proving that the Palestinian resistance is unbeatable. And no matter how hard you hit them or try to hit them, they will rise again like the phoenix. Simply won't work. What is he going to do? Is he going to drag this for the next year, for example? Now, again, a lot of this now is depending on Witkoff and Trump, the Trump administration. They're saying that the talks with Iran are going well. They're saying that there are potentials to reach an agreement with them. In relation to Gaza, again, there were reports that these latest proposals coming from Egypt could work as a bridging ceasefire leading to an end of the war. So again, we might see something new here. It's not really linked to the others, but a longer kind of ceasefire that will take approximately 60, 70 days, maybe with some guarantees. I'm not sure how valid and credible, trustworthy these guarantees would be to lead to an end of the war. And if that doesn't work, it could lead to an escalation. It could lead to more escalation. But so far, well, the resistance is getting more active. And for some reason, even in Israel, they're talking about some losses. As a matter of fact, in Israel, 2 weeks ago, they spoke about that ambush that happened in Khan Yunis. And at the time, I thought that that was an attempt coming from Israel or some in the Israeli media to add more pressure on the government, although they're still very aligned. But there's an element of applying pressure here because they're recognizing the loss that's happening. They even declared that ambush before the Palestinian resistance did. That was something very, doesn't really happen that much. Previously, in previous months, at the peak of the attacks against the IDF terror forces in Gaza, Israel wasn't saying a word. No word whatsoever about what's happening. That's why, I constantly continue to give the information that's coming in from Gaza about the level of intensity from the resistance against the Israeli army, the Israeli terror army inside of the Gaza Strip. But now it's as if they are accepting that there are certain losses, meaning, well, they're not really that happy with what's happening, and they're trying to apply pressure on the government to end it, aligning themselves slightly more with the population. Because the population in Israel is very split, of course. There are the Netanyahu cult, really. There are the others who, they don't have a problem with the concept of genocide, but they are not really happy with what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing and how he's conducting this. And there is a minority who's outright against genocide, full stop. But if we want to talk about the majority are opposing Netanyahu, undeniably. The majority in Israel oppose Benjamin Netanyahu. And he's losing more and more popularity in Israel the longer the time goes by. And the criticism from the people against the media reached peak levels. That's from months back. That's not from now. That's why many people are resorting to social media and Telegram to find real sources. Even the families of the prisoners of war, they listen to Hamas more than they listen to Netanyahu. Even with the daughter of Strook that I spoke about yesterday, that's already circulating in social media in Israel. Everyone knows it, but the mainstream media doesn't report anything about it. Because, of course, the military censorship, because Israel is in a state of war, a declared state of emergency. And, of course, they use these as pretext to have draconian measures inside of Israel. And these were the main things that I want to share with you in this live stream. I'll open the space up for the community for some participation. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in for another live stream. Let's see if we have any questions or comments. God is my shepherd. Thank you. Gullyberg, congratulations on your 12-month membership, my friend. He said he'll never be bored by the subjects I discussed. Thank you so much, my brother. Always good to see you. And all of the community, welcome again. Paleti, Assalamu alaikum, Mahmoud, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Do you think Israel will declare war on Turkey? I don't think so. I think both sides are trying to reach an agreement. They're talking in Azerbaijan now. It's a possibility. It's not that it's not a possibility, but they're trying to reach an agreement. And I don't think so because there's too much to lose. Now, Israel already revised its position against Turkey. Israel already views Turkey. So that was the short, straightforward answer from the beginning. Let me just clarify a little bit more. Israel already changed its view, its analysis on Turkey's threat to Israel. The committee that was advising the government spoke about this at the time, approximately 2 months ago, advising the government to change the level of threat of Turkey from a country that is not posing a threat to a country that actually is posing a threat now, with all of the changes in Syria, with their, well, expansion in Syria, their influence in Syria, the fact that they're planning to have a base in T4 that could be the biggest base in the world, with multi-layered defense systems, and. Can they reach a deal? Well, they can reach a deal. They have reached deals before. But the problem is the current Israeli government, they are trying to keep as many fronts in flames as possible to serve Benjamin Netanyahu. So we need to understand, number one, where is Israel coming from and where is Turkey coming from? Because the biggest threat is, of course, in Syria. Netanyahu wants to keep as many fronts open as possible. Why? Because if he has to concede, or if he has to reach an agreement in one front, he will have another front that he can use as an excuse. So he's future-proofing himself, by the way. How? In Lebanon, when did he go to an all-out war in Lebanon? He went to an all-out war in Lebanon when there were hundreds of thousands protesting against him, when the momentum was reaching peak levels against him in Israel, when all eyes were on him. And everyone was sick of what's happening in Gaza. They just wanted this to end. He decided, I'm going to add a fourth objective of the campaigns that we're having now. And that objective is going to be dedicated to Lebanon. What did he call that objective? The objective is returning the people back to the north. Then he went on almost an all-out war in Lebanon. We quickly had a ceasefire. 3 months. Why? Because he got his objective. What was his objective? Take away the eyes from him, pretend like he had some sort of development with Hezbollah, and then go back and continue to focus the shift on Gaza. Had a temporary ceasefire in Gaza, then he had to go back again for his own interests. If he has, or if he is pushed by the United States administration, who's pushing him to reach a deal with Turkey, by the way, we saw that from Trump. If he has to go ahead with a ceasefire in Gaza, he will have Lebanon, he will have Syria, and he can come up with something in Jordan too. And don't forget, he already has a front in the West Bank. So Netanyahu is deliberately having multiple fronts open so that he can, throw more gasoline whenever he wants for his own sake. Saying that there is a prospect of a deal between them, but there's still a prospect of, problems happening as well, especially if Israel continues to expand its aggression in Syria and in other places too. And thank you for that. And BS saying, Mahmoud, I've heard the US might have as many as 100 or 300,000 troops within the region. Any user thoughts about this? Well, globally, I believe the number estimated is approximately 750,000 troops. Many of them are in Europe. 40 to 50,000 are in Okinawa in Japan. They try and keep the numbers in the Gulf area, not very clear, but I think it's a bit of an overstretch, 100 or 300,000. Because, listen, we need to understand that if they do decide, for example, to go on an attack against Iran, I highly doubt they would deploy all of their army and have boots on ground. I think they will focus on having a couple of airstrikes, something theatrical, something that will, create a lot of fire to show people. Because a lot of it is a show, to be honest with you. And that's it. Then would open a full front with Iran. What are you talking about? It's like, imagine that happening. They can't deal with Ansarullah in Yemen. What? Iran. They will be sinking. They will be sinking. very quickly. It's going to be very problematic. And that's why Trump is saying we want a deal and, we don't want this and that. A couple of times he'll bark, in the typical ways and then do a 180 for any dodgy old reason. And let's see where the talks lead to. Kudampuli saying, hi, Mahmoud, do you think a civil war, something civil in Israel is realistic under the circumstance? Yes. And thank you for your comment. It's very realistic. I mean, in Israel, they're already saying that we are witnessing the beginnings of a civil war. The only thing it hasn't reached to so far is violence, as in outright violence against two camps. Massive violence, because there is violence. It's not that there isn't violence. I'm talking about like people from both sides carrying arms, starting to kill each other. We haven't reached that level yet, but it's very probable. The society is more split than ever. The establishment is more split than ever. This letter is causing them havoc now. And it's very, very problematic. It's not something to be taken lightly. And Tori saying, who is most likely to start a leverage against the entity? What do they have to lose? It will come on them if they don't stand up against genocide in their hood. Well, I think, firstly, I'd like to say that if you don't take a position against genocide altogether, you are participating in legitimizing the act of genocide. Therefore, you're legitimizing it against you. How? Let's say, for example, you're in a very remote country that is supporting a genocide. And you don't care. You're not saying anything. You think, whatever. And you're, fooling yourself into, being conveniently ignorant about what's happening in Gaza and the complicity of your government. Okay. Your government tomorrow will come up with something, a disease, a spread in your country. And will say that everyone who carries this disease must be eliminated before this disease spreads and start on a mass killing. I'm just giving you an example, a hypothetical example, as in the concept of genocide. Now, those who are next to them, positions do vary, let's be fair, but nothing reaches the level of required action. Children are being, children and adults and elderly, okay, are going through surgeries that include, very, very serious surgeries. Okay, let's not get into too many details. Without anesthetics, no medication, no food, no water. Children can't eat. People die of hunger, cold, all of that suffering. And you're sitting there not doing anything. It's not that they don't realize the threat. I think some of them might be a little bit delusional, but I think some of them are complicit. It's like, it's the only interpretation, it's the only explanation. So the complicity is very high, especially with the countries very close to Israel. And Tam, Mahmoud, have you seen the latest video from the American Israeli soldiers telling Netanyahu that it was never about the hostages, but to keep him in power? Well, there were very, very many videos of not just soldiers who were in the army, but also, listen, the people who are the people who, suffered the most from out of this, the families of the prisoners of war, right? They were targeting Netanyahu from the beginning, telling him everything is to keep him in power. Plus, he is sending people to die, right? You see, Israel, okay, the Israelis are some of the most brainwashed populations on earth. Why? And by the way, that's many Israeli Jews said that to me directly, as in it's not like they voluntarily said we are the most brainwashed society on earth. Why? It's like, of course we know why, but why are they being brainwashed? So that they can use them in these circumstances without too much scrutiny, so that people can, believe that they need to go cannon fodder, so that they can implement the Hannibal Directive on them whenever they want. So they know that very well. Some of them know that very well. The problem is it hasn't reached a level where it's taking down the same person who is causing all of that when his son is bathing in Miami and in other parts of the world, roaming around with security paid for by the Israeli taxpayer, when he is at a serving age. He's at a serving. Why is he not coming back? So this man is sending other people's children to go and die, not for anything but his own selfish interest, and his son, at the cost of the state, is roaming around the world. So it's not just him; it's so many people apart from him. And now more and more people are realizing that. And the big problem for Netanyahu is more and more of that is coming to the mainstream. And there are even people in Israel now warning from the outcome of what's happening on the ground on the media that is more aligned with Benjamin Netanyahu. Because Benjamin Netanyahu has certain media outlets in Israel who are like Netanyahu diehard, and they always support him, they always protect him, they always go against the opposition. As a matter of fact, there was a big case against Benjamin Netanyahu approximately a decade ago about how he wanted to purchase, or was pushing some of his donors to purchase, some of the biggest media outlets in Israel to be aligned with him. And he was, of course, there were things taken, the people took him to court for that, trying to control every media outlet inside of the state. He failed, but there are still some people who, support him. But now more and more people are warning that even the support of these channels might be changing at one point. Of course, it's not very likely if the funding is still the same and they still have the same interest, but who knows what can happen if there could be a replacement. But one thing that's for sure is his situation is not getting better. He is implementing what he wants, but his situation in general is not getting better. And with his situation not getting better, the situation of Israel as a state isn't getting better. It's getting much worse. And we'll wrap it up there, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in for another show. Thank you for your participation, all of your comments. Sorry if I missed some of them. Thank you for everyone who sent supers. God is my shepherd. Thank you. And I'll hopefully have a couple of other videos for you later on and tomorrow as well. In the meantime, everyone stay blessed, take care, and I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone. Salam.